replacement of the alternator on a 2005 Hummer H2. The tools required: half-inch breaker bar with a 15mm socket, although this is an American vehicle, half-inch drive ratchet, and a spinner with a 5/16 inch bit. First thing to do, you want to be sure to remove the intake piping behind the mass airflow sensor. And then you can remove the intake at the throttle body. Is that now? That's right. Your intake assembly. Alright, removal of the intake ducting is necessary to facilitate access to the belt tensioner. The belt tensioner takes the 15mm socket and the half-inch breaker bar and move towards the center of the engine. Then just go ahead and slip the belt off and return it to its original position. Now be sure to leave your half-inch bar in there to make it easier to put right back on. You got a good shot on that. Alright. You can go ahead and loosen the two bolts that attach the alternator to the alternator bracket. At this point here, and at this point here. An additional tool would be a 1/4 inch drive ratchet and a 5/16 inch socket. I'm going to remove the engine cover just so that we can see the alternator being unclipped from the electrical leads. I'm going to disconnect the battery. Always disconnect the ground side of the battery first. This is to prevent you from contacting the frame while removing the positive side and causing an electrical arc. Now, time to disconnect the electrical leads and sensors from the alternator.
There's a boot that you need to remove from the back of the alternator, which is the supply back to the battery. You're going to use the same 1/4" drive ratchet with a 10mm socket, and simply remove the nut holding the lead to the alternator. There's also a clip and it is removed by the clip on the back. You just simply pull up and pull out. Now your alternator is ready for removal. You need to lever that out of there. Actually, it's rusted in. One of the downsides to an aluminum housing and a steel bushing is bimetallic corrosion. The two metals oxidize against each other and make removal difficult, so you may need to lever your alternator out with a pry bar. That's it. An alternator. We've chosen a 100% new Ultima Select with a lifetime warranty, and should it go back out again, just get a new one for free. Now all you have to do is work backwards, reattach the alternator, which comes with a new shiny nut. It isn't corroded like the old one, for a good electrical connection. And the torque spec on this is RFT, which stands for really friggin' tight. That's a joke. No? Alright. You merely clip that back in, and your alternator installation is complete. Now, what bears saying at this point is that you need to make sure that your belt routing has not become compromised by the installation of your alternator, which it is not uncommon for belts to slip off of their pulleys when you're in here messing with stuff. So just make sure everything's straight. This belt, of course, goes underneath the idler pulley, back on top of the alternator. Looks like everything is squared away here. Therefore, we can come back over to this side. Seeing as we left our a 1/2-inch breaker bar with our 15mm socket on this side. All that needs done here is to merely slip the belt back over and release. Now that everything here is complete, we can reinstall the intake ducting and engine cover, and then the job is done. As an addition to alternator installation, we're going to do a short bit on battery safety. When batteries do what they do, they create hydrogen gas, which is highly explosive. And the one thing that I would stress is to always take the ground side off first and put the ground side on last. It prevents electrical arcs as much as possible and keeps you from blowing yourself up. Also, a personal preference of mine is to use a ratchet and socket that's not long enough to contact both battery poles. That way you don't weld your wrench to the battery and blow yourself up. After the installation of a new alternator, something I like to do, it doesn't always have to be done, but I like to do an alternator output test with a digital multimeter, which ensures that you got a decent brand new alternator. Sometimes they don't all work. I turn my digital multimeter to volts DC, put the black lead on the negative, red lead on the positive, and measure battery voltage. Now we're looking at 12.11 volts DC without the alternator charging. Go ahead and crank the car up.
Now as you can see, with the vehicle running, the alternator in the charging mode, instead of showing 12.11 volts, now it's showing an output of 14.4, which is around 2.3 volts higher than previous battery voltage, which shows me that the vehicle charging system is now in fact working. Your installation of a brand new alternator on a 2005 Hummer H2 is now complete.
Nashville Auto-Diesel College, the best college in the United States for automotive and diesel repair.